If you're headed to Europe but you don't have a ton of time to travel, it can be really challenging deciding where you want to spend your valuable time. So I spent 3 months traveling Europe. Today I wanted to share my top 5 countries that I absolutely loved and that I definitely wouldn't want to miss. The first country on my list is Italy. If you're short on time, Italy is fantastic because there's so much jam-packed into a relatively small area. So you've got Rome. In Rome, you can check out the Colosseum, the Roman Forum, the Trevi Fountain. There are tons of great restaurants in Rome. If you're interested in history at all, Rome is an incredible place to visit. And has anyone else seen the Lizzie McGuire movie and it made them want to visit Rome? Am I alone in that? Okay, well, I'm just gonna move on. Another city I really enjoyed in Italy was Florence. As with many places in Europe, it has tons of history. I loved going on walking tours in Florence and learning about the Medici family and just imagining that whole story just taking place. In addition, you can visit the iconic market on the bridge in Florence. Florence is considered the birthplace of the Renaissance. So if you're interested in art or paintings or statues, there's a lot of that to see as well. Another very popular place to visit in Italy is Cinque Terre. Please forgive me if I didn't say that right, but it's these 5 villages on the coast and there are paths between each of them so you can hike between them, but they have super colorful buildings. They have some cool beaches, one of which you go through a cave to access, which I thought was really interesting. But if you're looking for an idyllic place just to relax and read a book, there's no better place than Cinque Terre. And of course, how could I talk about Italy and not mention Venice? So Venice, we all know about it. It's one of the most iconic destinations in the world. So if you get the opportunity, I recommend visiting Venice. Besides, I think it's actually sinking into the ocean or something, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, maybe see it while it's still available to be seen. The last thing I'll mention about Italy is you can also check out the Italian Alps. I love mountains. Seeing mountains would be a priority for me on my trip. And so if I picked one country, Italy would be great because I'd have all of those cities to visit and then I could also still go and enjoy nature in the mountains. It's usually recommended that you visit Italy in the spring or the fall just because the prices can be lower and the weather can still be nice. A slightly less popular country that I really enjoyed visiting was Slovenia. The nice thing about Slovenia is that because it's not as popular, I found that prices tended to be cheaper. Slovenia is another place ideal for nature lovers. You've probably seen a picture of one of the most iconic destinations in Slovenia, which is Lake Bled. So it's this beautiful lake with a church in the center of it. Lake Bled is located in the town of Bled. In addition to the church, there's also a castle that you can go up and visit, and the castle has a great view of the rest of the lake. Something else fun you can do is rent a boat and just travel around the lake and go visit the church in the middle. If you stay at a hostel in Slovenia, they have tons of brochures about different nature excursions that you can do in the area. One that I decided to do was canyoning. That was a really interesting experience. I had never done that before. Something else you don't want to miss if you visit Lake Bled is the Vintgar Gorge. And it's basically this river and it has bridges on either side of it that just crisscross across the river through this gorge. That was my experience in Slovenia. I only had a few days there. I'd love to go back and explore more because I'm sure there's a lot more to see and do. But if you only have a few days, I think the things that I mentioned are a pretty good starting point. If you want to beat the crowds in Slovenia, it's recommended that you visit in the spring. It's a good time to be outdoors and there's just less people. My next country is the Netherlands, and more specifically, Amsterdam. Apart from Amsterdam's reputation for partying, it's a really beautiful city with a very unique charm. The canals, the flowers, the old houses, they all just work together just to create this beautiful setting. And one of my favorite things to do is just to simply walk around the streets and explore. There are lots of museums that you can visit. There's also the Anne Frank House, which if you've never read Anne Frank's diary, it's really interesting and can help put life in perspective for you. Visiting the Anne Frank house where it all actually took place is a sobering and memorable experience. Something I always love doing when I travel is renting bikes and just exploring cities that way. There's no shortage of bike rental options in Amsterdam. Amsterdam is a really lively city, so in the warmer months of the year, you can almost always find some type of event to take part in and enjoy. The busiest time to visit Amsterdam is definitely in the summer, so the best time to visit is between April and May, or September and November. My next country is Croatia. Croatia is another one of those countries that I don't feel like you hear quite as much about. I'm really glad I took the time to visit because it ended up being one of my favorite places. I spent most of my time in the city of Split, which is the largest city on the coast. In Split, there are ancient Roman ruins you can visit. There's also a really cool old town that has a very unique feeling. I had some of the best seafood I've ever had in Split, and overall it's just a really nice Mediterranean type feel. From Split, I made my way to the island of Hvar. Hvar is known for its wine, its good nightlife, the unique stone architecture, and then also the really nice private beaches that you can escape to. A city I really regret not visiting while I was in Croatia was Dubrovnik. It has a really large old town surrounded by an ancient wall that you can actually get up and walk on. But there are just beautiful beaches, museums. There's a beautiful mountaintop view you can reach to get a great view of the city. It's one of the most popular places to visit in Croatia, and I believe for good reason. I recommend not missing it like I did if you get the chance to visit Croatia. So the best time to travel Croatia kind of depends. If you're going to soak in the sun, you probably want to go in the summer because that's when it's the nicest weather. However, things tend to be less expensive and crowded in the shoulder seasons, so I would just keep that in mind. Next is one of my favorite places on earth, which is Switzerland. Switzerland is simply incredible. Visiting a valley surrounded by the Swiss Alps for the first time is a memory that I don't think I will ever forget. Even if you're not really an outdoorsy type person, Switzerland is somewhere that I think everyone should see at least once in their life. One of my favorite places I visited in this country was Lauterbrunnen. So Lauterbrunnen has been made popular in probably the last 5 or 10 years, I would say, just from people sharing pictures of it on social media. But it's this valley surrounded by 72 cliff face waterfalls. If you're into pop culture, you'll appreciate that Lauterbrunnen was the inspiration for Rivendell in The Lord of the Rings. The author of the series, J.R.R. Tolkien, he visited Lauterbrunnen and thought it was so incredible that he wrote it into his actual fantasy novel. As for things to do, it's the perfect starting point for a lot of nature excursions. If it's warmer, you can go on some hikes. If it's colder, there's good skiing. I went when it was warmer, which I really liked because I've never skied before. Skiing in the Swiss Alps seems a little dangerous if you don't really know what you're doing, but the hiking there is second to none. In addition to that, there are tons of other small towns around Lauterbrunnen that I recommend checking out as well. I just made a video breaking down the top Swiss villages to visit, so I'll put a link in the description if you want to check that out. So the best time to visit Switzerland is between April and October, but if you're going for more of the winter sports, you might want to travel between December to March. So if you're about to travel Europe, what is the destination that you're the most excited for? I'd love to hear it if you want to drop it down in the comments. If you've already traveled, maybe tell me what your favorite destination is so I can check it out in the future. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're interested in travel, but I'll see you guys in the next video.